Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're doing something a little bit different, pulling back the curtain on a really emotional, incredibly vulnerable, and just deeply revealing live broadcast from BTS's RM. After wrapping up this massive global tour for their highly anticipated return, RM literally just sat down alone in his hotel room to talk directly to the fans. And this was not your typical polished PR statement, not at all. It was this incredibly raw reflection on the exhausting reality of creating the BTS 2.0 album, the existential weight of global fame, and his sort of stubborn dedication to making true art in our modern era of endless scrolling.
I truly think it is a miracle that this album came out. That's a direct quote. The stakes for this reunion project were just unimaginably high. I mean, think about it. When a group of this absolute magnitude goes on hiatus, completes their military service, and then attempts a massive comeback, the pressure is staggering. RR openly admits they didn't even have a clear path set when they started. Honestly, just getting all 7 members back together in one room to release an album safely without anyone dropping out, in his eyes, that alone was an absolute miracle.
All right, let's get into Section 1. Rebuilding BTS 2.0, the struggle to reunite. So the emotional genesis of this whole project actually began way before they ever stepped foot in a recording booth. Rebuilding that cohesive working unit took a monumental, year-long effort. It actually kicked off with a tearful gathering at Jimin's house while RM was still serving as a private first class. They basically made a promise right there to create an album to repay the fans. Fast forward a bit to the spring, and pre-sessions began in April and May. By June, they're at a pension listening to about 15 cut tracks together. Then, July and August hit, and they relocate entirely to Los Angeles for this intense song camp. And all of this grueling work culminated in the big album release, just 70 days before RM sat down for this broadcast.
Now here's where things get really interesting regarding their internal dynamics. RM points out that there was no captain to run the party. Because they had built such this massive, intricately woven relationship over a decade, everyone was just tiptoeing around each other. They were hyper-cautious. They had so much respect for each other's boundaries that if even one member disliked a track, everyone else just immediately backed off. But ironically, that profound level of respect made creative decision-making the absolute hardest part of the entire year. Reaching a consensus was like pulling teeth.
Moving on to Section 2, the LA Song Camp, crafting the sound.
Let's shift our focus to the literal, mechanical process of creating the album, because this is what ultimately broke down all those initial hesitations. RM talks about this phase through a deeply professional lens. He drops industry terms like song camp and pre-session. If you're not familiar, a song camp is this highly collaborative, intense music production setup where artists, producers, and top-liners gather to just rapidly generate and record track ideas. By breaking it down like this, RM really validates his own professional insight, He's proving he's not just an idol on a stage, he is a core architect of this massive musical machinery.
And the environment they created to do this was just next level. Picture this, inside Conway Studios in LA, they are grinding it out 6 days a week, utilizing 4 completely separate studio rooms at the same time. They're rotating 5-person teams every single day, mixing the BTS members with top-tier producers. The pace was insane. They were churning out 1 to 2 tracks every single day. RM actually described it as being almost like a factory workplace. But it was exactly this grueling, totally immersive environment that finally helped them let go of their nerves, blend back together, and find their new sound. Which brings us to Section 3, Identity and Sound, unlocking the tracks. It is so fascinating to see how the group's kind of fragmented identity was woven into the album's biggest tracks. These songs drastically evolved from their original concepts. Take Bite Body, for example. It actually started as a heavily sexual track called Body on Body, but it evolved to incorporate the traditional Korean folk song Arirang, completely grounding their identity. Then you have Alien, which began as this abstract track named Angelus, but they rewrote it to embrace this sort of rustic pride, literally a bold declaration of being foreigners. And the track 2.0? It started as standard pop, but transformed into a boundary-pushing, high-energy performance that pushed the vocalists to their absolute limits. Fun fact, it almost got cut from the album completely.
Including Arirang was just such a profound choice. RM mentioned they really had to ask themselves, what makes our team different from other teams? And their answer was to take the regional characteristics of Korea and inject them straight into a massive global pop album. He even joked, ultimately, the 7 of us are nothing but country bumpkins from Korea. I love that. It just proves that no amount of unprecedented global success has erased their roots. If anything, they're leaning into them harder than ever before.
Let's pivot a bit for Section 4, The weight of fame, the artist's reflection.
About halfway through the broadcast, RM heads into some pretty dark, introspective territory, sharing these incredibly striking visual metaphors for his life. He compares surviving the military to the song Swim, basically just aimlessly surviving day by day, wandering and breathing. But then, in stark contrast, you have Merry-Go-Round, which represents the totally inescapable loop of idol life. He describes it as this broken roller coaster of repetition, boredom, and despair that you literally cannot step off of.
And then he unpacks the tragic irony behind the track Normal. Sonically, the melody is super upbeat and fun, right? But the lyrics are desperately sad. RM exposes his deep vulnerability about how fleeting and transactional public adoration really is. He says, "One day they say they love me, and the next day people tell me to get lost. We call this normal." He even admitted to wishing, just for a minute, that people would completely forget him so he could finally escape the relentless gaze of the public. It's heartbreaking.
Next up is Section 5, Art in the Reels Era, the Modern Industry.
This part really hit home. RM shifts from his personal struggles with fame to this massive existential crisis about the modern landscape of music consumption. He contrasts his deep-rooted love for literature with today's audience. You know, he started in music through words and lyrics. He believes in careful reflection, in deep storytelling. But he laments that we are now fully living in the fast-tempo Reels era. It's all about instant dopamine. People skip the story completely just for pure, fast-paced entertainment. And he honestly admits that even he catches himself mindlessly scrolling. Ask yourself, how often do you do the exact same thing? It leaves him wondering if there's even any room left in the industry for artists like him.
But despite all of that intense algorithmic pressure, RM has this stubborn, truly beautiful dedication to maintaining the absolute essence of BTS. He says, "I hope that in the future, we remain a team that conveys stories. Whether those stories are about love, universal truths, or even really uncomfortable sadness, he is determined to preserve that romance. He absolutely refuses to let their art devolve into meaningless, excessive positivity just to feed a scrolling algorithm."
And finally, Section 6, a love letter to ARMY, the final connection. We reach the emotional peak of the broadcast when he breaks down the origin of the phrase, "You make me weak," which became a huge central theme of their recent tour. This simple, vulnerable confession is him completely peeling back his superstar persona. He admits that, yeah, he wants to look cool, but ultimately, the fans completely disarm him. It's this raw reveal of his genuine, human reliance on his fans. He acknowledges this shared destiny that actually terrifies him a bit, simply because of how much he now has to lose.
He paints this incredible picture of the sacred, in-person connection at their live shows. He talks about standing on stage, looking out at 50,000 shining army bombs lighting up the stadium, all in unison. Everyone is singing the exact same lyrics together. It's a deeply shared history that outsiders will just never understand, no matter how many articles the media writes about their economic impact. In a highly digitized world where we literally stare at our phones until we fall asleep, that physical, electric, shared energy at a concert is utterly irreplaceable.
And he leaves us with this powerful realization. RM truly believes that moments of genuine, undivided attention are going to become increasingly precious in the future, like a rare luxury. As the world relentlessly pushes us toward isolation and fast-paced digital distraction, true human connection is fading. So I want to leave you with the exact same thought RM was grappling with. In an era of endless scrolling, what is the true value of looking into each other's eyes? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep reflecting, and I'll catch you next time.